Dr. Michael Cotton here again. By now, you may be figuring out why self-help rarely helps. Most self-help techniques do not change the physiology in the brain. They don't get energy to the highest, most evolved part of the brain. And thoughts, goals, ideas, strategies, they're all fleeting until they become anchored to higher brain energy. If there is a gap between where you are in your life and where you want to be, well, the lower brain has its grip on that part of your life, and it's producing sameness. No big life changes happen until the grip is loosened on the dominant lower brain, and the higher brain, the part of the brain that wants to change and has that empowered change-producing state of consciousness associated with it, no change happens until that part of the brain gets upgraded and energy builds there. So this is what's happened to us as a species. Imagine 100,000 years ago, you left your cave to gather food, and you went out and you turned left. And when you turned left down a path, a saber-toothed tiger came over the ridge and tried to eat you. And you scampered back into your cave. And you hid there until you couldn't take it anymore, and you had to go out and you had to get food. So the next day you went, and of course you didn't turn left, you turned right. And when you turned right, you walked down this path, and your feet got cut up by the rough stones. The other path was smooth, but there was a tiger. This time you went down this rough path that cut your feet up with stones. You walked through all of these briars and brambles. Your body got cut up. You had to go through this mucky swamp where it smelled horrible, and you ended up getting to the other side into this clearing where more briars cut your legs up, and you got some half-eaten fruit that you were able to eat some of and take back to the family. So the first thing to recognize is, how did you go back? Well, you went back the same way because no tigers attacked you. So you went back, cut your body up again, bruised your feet up again. You were bloody when you got back to your cave, but you got there and you were safe. Safe according to the lower brain. You survived that day. So the next day when you had to go gather food, you went out of your cave. Which way do you think you went? Well, you went down that same path that cut your legs up, cut your feet up, cut your body up, and got some half-eaten fruit and came back. You see, the lower brain rewards sameness if sameness leads to our survival. Well, the problem is in the modern world, the lower brain is still dominant. And so it can't process all of the things that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, so it learns how just to create sameness because all it wants to do is survive. So even if we're in bad relationships, even if we don't have any money in our bank account, even if we're depressed, even if we don't like our jobs, even if we don't feel empowered, the lower brain says, success, let's do it again and again and again and again and again. And we end up living the same life over and over and over again because the lower brain is dominating and we can't make change until we can get into the higher, new, evolved part of the brain, the part of the brain that wants to make change, where that empowered state of consciousness is. So higher brain living, the higher brain living program shifts energy out of the lower stress brain into the higher part of the brain where you can actually make change. And as that energy is building in the higher brain, this system has a guidebook that you will use, this guidebook that will direct you to how to most efficiently apply that energy to any and every area of your life where you can grow and evolve in the most effective ways. The strategies in the guidebook teach you to associate the changes you want to make in your life with higher brain energy. As you do this, the raw material of the brain molds itself to your new life. So your brain changes in the way that is required to create the new changes needed in your life. This rewiring and remolding of the brain is called neuroplasticity. The changes you want to make become represented in the higher brain, which is what makes them sustainable and real. Your brain, not just your thoughts and goals and idea, but your brain is now in alignment with your thoughts and goals and idea. Your brain, your higher brain, is in alignment with your big vision and your new life. So please understand that through this higher brain program, this higher brain living program, that your facilitator can associate the big vision that you have, the change that you want to make, your goals, your vision, your ideas, that can be associated with the part of the brain that makes that actually come true. And now you're going to see another live demonstration. I want you to watch as I cue these ancient pathways that release this hidden, latent energy through a revolutionary new protocol that directs this energy into the untapped higher part of the brain. And then see the response in his body as his brain starts to generate its own feedback to increase its own metabolism in the higher brain. Can instantaneously hear that breath response. We call that a salutogenic breath because it's produced by the higher brain. The higher brain is engaged. It's creating a feedback mechanism. We cued pathways. I cued these pathways in a way that that latent energy in the body was released and moved into just nudge the higher brain awake. And as that happens, it starts to come online and it starts to create its own feedback through this breath, increasing metabolism into the higher brain. You can even hear that breath in his body. He's not making that happen. The experience is he's being breathed, not that he's taking a breath. It's completely spontaneous, completely involuntary. He could stop it, but it feels amazing, so he just lets it happen. This is a very specific protocol in very specific sequences that release this latent energy into the higher brain. This protocol is scientific, it's consistent, it's reproducible, and I can teach you to do it and change lives in the most astonishing ways. That breath is coursing all the way through his body, a wave moving through there. That wave is a primal pattern, and it's dissipating the stress response from the lower brain, opening those pathways so more of that energy can build into the higher brain. And what I want now is to have Ryan turn over onto his back. Energy is building in the higher brain. The stress response has been dumped. The breath is spontaneously expanding to pump more energy into the higher brain. Ryan is now having the experience of more joy, more confidence, more clarity, higher states of consciousness because energy's in that part of the brain. And through his guidebook, he's able to take that into his life. And there's a formal way to engage that higher brain on his own, get energy into that higher brain, create that clear effect, create that confidence, that empowerment, and from that place, inventory his life and gather information about what needs to change. And the change that he wants to make during his session, we can associate with the higher part of the brain. So those two things, the outcome he desires becomes anchored to the part of the brain required for that to actually come true. And he can take that new brain and that guidebook out into the world and apply it to his life and make real and sustainable change. This is really a revolutionary part of the higher brain living system.
I think it helps develop a better awareness of yourself, aligning your thoughts, your goals, looking at some of your kind of inner conflicts that you deal with every day, just unraveling some of those. Have an open mind about it. It's very different. The techniques, the philosophies are very different than things I've ever experienced or that I've been aware of. And I believe it's probably a practice that you have to get involved in, get involved with, personally. Do your research. Come to a presentation, meet with the facilitator, do your research and see if it's a fit for you.
Isn't that amazing? As you advance in the Higher Brain Living program, you use your Higher Brain Living guidebook and your new Higher Brain Energy and Awareness to get clear about the changes you want to make in your life. Then as you receive sessions, Higher Brain Living sessions with your facilitator associates the goals, passions, changes that you want to make with your higher brain energy. So those two become one. The empowered higher brain change-oriented state and the change you want to make become one and the same thing. As the association between your higher brain and the changes you want in your life deepens, you can follow the new life map in your guidebook towards creating that change, and it's sustainable change. You now have the correct brain state to make it happen. In fact, the connection between the change-oriented higher brain and the specific changes in the life you wish to see becomes so strong that simply verbally stating the change or thinking the change catalyzes the higher brain and energy builds in the higher brain. We've even been able to show this on EEG with a prominent brain researcher measuring the EEG signal. So here's the really big story in all of this. As that stress clears out of your body, out of your lower brain, and energy builds in the higher brain, and you become empowered, and you're able to start applying that new higher brain state to all areas of your life, freeing up that energy in all of those stuck areas of your life. What happens is that your authentic self, that fearlessly authentic part of you, can come to the front, and you can live with purpose and passion and meaning. And as enough of us shift into this higher brain, and we start creating these higher brain states, and this part of the brain starts permanently changing, we start to create a new culture, and the world changes. I invite you to join this revolution and be part of our Higher Brain Living community.